Hello, I'm Jeff Moody. Welcome to Global Business Europe. Our top stories. The yen surges to a 3-month high as Tokyo and Washington join forces to help prop it up. Mega merger, AstraZeneca shares fall on reports of a takeover bid from US rival Bristol Myers in a deal that could create a $400 billion biotech giant. Extreme heat threatens Hungary's only nuclear power plant. A shutdown could cost the country hundreds of millions of dollars. And looking to the future, will smart glasses replace smartphones? The Japanese yen has hit a 3-month high after a rare joint intervention from Tokyo and Washington. The yen had fallen to its weakest level in nearly 40 years as investors worried about rising oil prices and Japan's spending plans. Well, Japan's finance ministry says the two countries bought yen together to support the currency and warned they could act again if needed. So why is the dollar-yen relationship so important? Well, the exchange rate is one of the world's most liquid and frequently traded currency pairs, and it's seen as an indication of global appetite for risk. When market confidence grows, investors move money into higher-yielding assets and out of yen-denominated assets. A weak yen makes Japanese goods cheaper for the US to buy. Now, that helps to keep US inflation down, but on the other side of the coin, it does make Japanese imports of fuel and food more expensive, pushing Japanese inflation higher. So, by buying yen, Washington is helping to support the Japanese economy. But it's not all one-sided. The stronger the dollar, the more profits Japanese companies with overseas businesses earn when they repatriate it and exchange it into yen. So for a country with huge international conglomerates like Toyota, Mitsubishi and Sony, that's important. Finally, there's the carry trade. Low domestic interest rates in Japan over 2 decades of deflation have forced the country's financial institutions to search for higher returns on their investment overseas. That's known as the carry trade. Well, our correspondent Mitch McCann is in New York. Hello to Mitch. So how are the markets reacting to this?
Yeah, hi, Jeff. Look, just surveying the market reaction this afternoon, some analysts still appear sceptical about how successful this move will be in the long term. UBS strategist reportedly said today that Japan's policy mix remains unlikely to generate sustained yen strength. HSBC analysts are saying something similar. They say that this still lacks confidence, or they still lack confidence that the yen will strengthen unless they see faster interest rate hikes from the Bank of Japan, as well as a couple of other factors. Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, has said on social media that the US will not hesitate to participate in further joint interventions, so there could be more investment to come from the United States. As you mentioned, the Japanese yen is strengthening, so it is having some effect. One US dollar is now about 157.97 yen, down from 163.84, which was the high that it reached in recent weeks. Now, Donald Trump has made it clear he wants to help Japan here. He says, we're always there for Japan, and Japan has always been very good to us. But as you mentioned, Jeff, there are other reasons why the US may have been led to make this move. And one is the trade deficit. A weakening yen means that the Japanese will buy less from America because of the higher costs, while Americans will buy more from Japan. And that's going to widen the trade deficit, something that the administration has signaled that it wants to avoid with its trading partners. It also wants Japan to avoid selling US treasuries. So friendship may be one factor there, but there's also, of course, many economic factors as well.
Mitch McCann, for now, thank you very much indeed. Well, Dr. Seiguro Takeshita is a professor at the School of Management and Information at the University of Shizuoka.
This was a surprise without a speck of doubt, because basically we knew that Bank of Japan was being cornered, but we didn't think the Americans would be joining in to help them out, at this point at least. To me, it just shows me the desperado situation of Bank of Japan, where they had to ask for the U.S. to help them out, possibly, inferring that Japan do have the largest amount of U.S. Treasury, and Japan does not want to go into a situation of selling them.
Now, the yen had fallen to its weakest level in around 40 years. What, in your opinion, is driving that decline, and why has it become such a pressing issue for Japan's economy?
Well, partly because our potential growth rate is under 2%. We are showing a comeback. But in comparison to the United States, which has a lot of maneuverability to basically increase their rates, in case of Japan, they do not have that, considering the fact that, again, we're showing signs of recovery. We're having a very good capital expenditure coming back on back of AI investment, digitalization, rationalization, what have you. But the private consumption really isn't back on their feet. And also, if you consider the fact that, we might be seeing a first wage rise in over 20 years, but that could be washed away by this inflationary fear that we have. So we have a lot of anxiety here, and I'm very sure that Bank of Japan is not really eager to increase the rates at this point, because that would basically jeopardize a comeback scenario.
And of course, currency intervention could provide an immediate boost, couldn't it? But what sort of lasting effect do you think that might have?
Oh, that's a good question. And the fact of the matter is, I think it may last for maybe a couple of months. And the market participant may be quite worried about, possible intervention, because it's a joint intervention. Singular intervention do not work, but joint intervention in the past has worked. So they do realize that it is not only the power, but the regulatory issues and very other issues that could, basically turn the tide around. But again, for rather short term. Because, again, I repeat the point, at the end of the day, it's the fundamentals, it's the interest rate deviations. And unless the fundamentals are at least not necessarily improving, but showing signs of improvement, I don't think the fundamentals is going to change, meaning that the trend of weakening yen will continue towards the end of the year. If we are merely going to see this joint intervention.
The US seems to have been selling euros, doesn't it, in order to buy yen. Why would they not just sell dollars?
Well, one of the things that I think U.S. administration had been constantly claiming is a strong dollar. And at this point, I don't think they're at the point of saying that we need to basically change the policy. So that's one of the reasons why, they don't really want to really change their initial policy or agenda that they've set.
Shares in AstraZeneca have dropped around 9% following reports of merger talks with US rival Bristol Myers Squibb. A deal would make them one of the world's biggest pharmaceutical firms, with a combined value of nearly $400 billion. Both companies are yet to comment. Well, let's return now to our correspondent, Mitch McCann. Mitch, what more do we know about this potential merger?
Yeah, hi again, Jeff. Look, this is a story that we're following very closely. The Financial Times has first reported this, that AstraZeneca may be looking to merge with the US biopharmaceutical company Bristol Myers Squibb, which is actually based in New Jersey, but also has offices here in New York. If the deal were to go ahead, it would create one of the largest pharmaceutical groups in the world. AstraZeneca has a market value itself of $264 billion US dollars. Bristol Myers Squibb is valued at about $133 billion US dollars. So as you mentioned, that would give it a combined market value of about $400 billion. Now, this deal would significantly increase AstraZeneca's footprint in the United States, which may lead to some concern in the UK. The company was already listed on the New York Stock Exchange earlier this year. And on the news of a potential merger, or reports of a potential merger, AstraZeneca's shares were down a short time ago on the New York Stock Exchange by about 8.6%. Bristol Myers Squibb was down 1.36%. So investors perhaps a little concerned at this stage, but it is very early days. Both companies not confirming publicly that they are in talks for this to happen yet.
And Mitch, all eyes on US employment data due out on Friday. What are we expecting?
Yeah, certainly plenty of economic news this week, isn't there, Jeff? Look, the jobs report will be released on Friday, as you say, and it's going to give the Federal Reserve more data to consider whether or not it weighs an interest rate hike and decides whether or not that's going to be appropriate in the months ahead. Now, they have been considering a hike because of persistent inflation. That's their primary concern at the moment as it relates to the war in Iran, which has pushed up inflation. In July, we received data for the month of June, which showed that the United States economy added 57,000 jobs, which was well below the forecast of around 115,000 if Friday's report also comes in below expectations. Now, economists on Friday are forecasting 85,000 jobs to be added in July. That could encourage the Fed to hold off on calling for a rate hike further. That's because raising interest rates is generally less supportive of stimulating job growth. So that's another consideration they have amid persistent inflation. So a lot going on for the Fed to consider at their next meeting, Jeff.
A lot indeed. Mitch McCann, thank you very much for that. The Japanese car giant Nissan returned to profit in the first quarter, helped by cost-cutting measures and improved sales in some markets. The company maintained its full-year forecast, expecting profits of around $1.25 billion for the fiscal year ending March 31st. Chief Executive Ivan Espinosa has been trying to stabilise the company after years of sliding sales and management turmoil. Shares in Alibaba surged in Hong Kong and New York on Monday after it unveiled its most powerful AI model yet. QWen 3.8 Max boasts 2.4 trillion parameters. The parameters refers to how quickly AI processes information and generates responses. It's capable of delivering sometimes even better scores than Anthropic's Fable 5. EasyJet has extended the deadline for a final takeover bid from private equity firm Castlelake to Friday. That means both Castlelake and rival bidder Apollo have until the end of the week to either submit a firm offer for the London-listed carrier or to walk away. US asset manager Apollo last week made a $7.6 billion takeover bid for EasyJet, trumping an earlier $7 billion offer from Castlelake. Now, Hungary is facing a power crisis due to the low levels of the Danube. The Prime Minister, Peter Magyar, says the next few days will be critical. Hungary's only nuclear power station, which supplies about half the country's electricity, relies on river water to keep its reactors cool. A succession of heat waves has seen the Danube River drop to record low levels.
The PAX engineers are completely in control of the situation. The water needed for cooling, for safety cooling, is available. Everything is secured 3 times over, and this one turbine will continue to operate as long as it is safe to do so, probably for 1 or 2 days.
Well, our correspondent Pablo Gutierrez is in Budapest. Pablo, what impact do you think this will have on Hungary's electricity grid?
Well, let's look at Hungary's electric mix. Nuclear power is the backbone of this country. 50% of the electricity that is generated and consumed here in Hungary, it comes from the PAX nuclear power plant. Now, as you mentioned, river levels are at historic low after 44 years. Right now, they're registering at around 23 centimeters. That's not enough to cool the PAX nuclear power plant. So that is a huge impact right there. Now, the second energy source for Hungary is solar. Solar is the second largest electricity source for the country, followed by imports. So what we expect to see right now is Hungary to rely a lot more on the imports of electricity. But this comes at a time when other countries have also increased usage of electricity and those costs are rising. So Peter Magyar's government is saying right now they expect to pay between $323 to $600 million additionally in imports just to compensate for the loss right now. PAX has been operating at around 10% capacity since last week, and the next few days are going to be critical. We're going to see temperatures soar to about 41 Celsius. That's 104 Fahrenheit approximately. But we do have some rain, some thunderstorms in the forecast, so that could help alleviate the situation a little bit. But experts say this has all been caused by back-to-back droughts and extreme high temperatures that we have seen here in Central Europe and across the continent as well.
You mentioned the cost there, Pablo. It is going to have a major economic impact, isn't it?
Yeah, right now we're just beginning to see, that tab of what this is going to cost the country. We mentioned $300 to $600 million in additional costs just to import that energy. But that's just the beginning. If we look at the impact on tourism, about 600,000 tourists come up and down the Danube in river cruises during the summer month. Those ships have been docked a few kilometers north from Hungary in cities like Győr or Esztergom. That's where they're at because they cannot come down. They cannot flow all the way down to the Black Sea. So that is one of the impacts. Another one that we are seeing right now, and we were talking to a few companies, about 300 of them have cut their energy consumption. Among them are Audi, Samsung SDI, and I just heard from CATL, China's CATL, they said they're cutting down their energy consumption by 20%. They aim to lower it to 30%. And then on top of that, this is not just a river for tourists, but this is a waterway where commerce flows, through 10 different countries. And we are seeing that impact right now among all of those carriers. They're down by 20 to 30%. So some of those goods are not getting across as they should be at this time of the year.
Pablo, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, it's a similar story in Germany, where the Rhine River is hitting record low water levels weeks earlier than expected. It's disrupting one of Europe's busiest inland shipping routes. As barges are forced to carry less cargo, transport costs are rising, and industries across Germany are beginning to feel the effects. Our correspondent Natalie Carney has this report.
The Kaub water gauge is one of the Rhine River's most closely watched points. At its shallowest, low water levels here force vessels to reduce their loads to avoid running aground, pushing freight onto roads and rail and driving up costs.
Nearly everything moving inland from the port of Rotterdam travels through this stretch of the River Rhine, meaning that just a few centimeters of water loss can ripple through supply chains serving factories across Europe.
The town's mayor says he's never seen the river this low.
Kaub ist quasi ein Richtwert.
The Kaub gauge serves as a benchmark for ships travelling from the lower Rhine to places like BASF. These companies, refineries and the like, receive many of their raw materials by ship, so they load their vessels based on the Kaub gauge reading. The less cargo they can carry, the more expensive everything becomes. Ultimately, everything gets pricier.
Industries including steel, chemicals, energy and manufacturing are among the hardest hit. At this time of year, water levels usually sit well above 2 meters, but weeks of drought and persistent heat have reduced it to historic lows of 25 centimeters.
Shipping traffic has dropped significantly due to these low water levels. First, the river cruise ships suspended operations, followed by the larger cargo vessels. Now, only relatively small cargo ships are operating, and transport volumes are very low. The flow of goods has to adapt, and in worst-case scenario, production does too.
And it has been, but at far smaller volumes, more slowly, and at much higher prices. Freight costs on this stretch of the Rhine have more than doubled since last June, with some operators imposing low-water surcharges of more than $1,000 per container.
Under normal water levels, a Rhine barge can carry around 500 containers. Currently, that capacity is down to just 20%, meaning only 100 containers. That leaves 400 containers sitting idle somewhere, while the 100 that can be transported become much more expensive to ship.
Meanwhile, trucks, trains and additional barges cannot fully make up for the lost river freight capacity. There are plans to deepen the Middle Rhine by an additional 20 centimeters, but the project isn't expected to be completed until 2033. Unlike previous major low-water events, these conditions have arrived in the middle of summer, raising fears that distribution could continue for weeks or even months. Natalie Carney, CGTN in Kaub.
You're watching Global Business Europe. Still ahead, they can see what you're seeing, answer your questions and display information right in front of your eyes. Could smart glasses become the next smartphone?
thing is a business story.
Welcome back to Global Business Europe with me, Jeff Moody. The headlines. The yen surges to a 3-month high as Tokyo and Washington join forces to help prop it up. Mega merger. AstraZeneca shares fall on reports of a takeover bid from US rival Bristol Myers in a bid that could create a $400 billion biotech giant. And extreme heat threatens Hungary's only nuclear power plant. A shutdown could cost the country hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, the integration of AI has led to a boom in the smart glasses market. And some analysts are even predicting that they will eventually replace our dependence on smartphones. Well, our correspondent, Siobhan McCall, has the details. Siobhan.
Thanks, Jeff. Yes, the global smart glasses market was worth $2.5 billion in 2025, and that's projected to grow to more than $10 billion by 2031. Meta accounted for around 70% of global shipments in the first quarter of this year, helped by a partnership with the world's largest eyewear company, and which owns the likes of Ray-Ban. But China is becoming one of the fastest growing smart glasses markets globally. It shipped close to 2.5 million smart glasses last year, up 87% year on year. Smartphone brand Xiaomi was the biggest Chinese company last year for this, but Rainio and Xreal, who specialize in augmented reality glasses, are gaining market share. AR glasses have built-in displays. They can be connected to a laptop or a smartphone, and then they bring up a huge virtual computer or gaming screen. China is dominating the AR and extended realities glasses sector, accounting for more than 80% of global shipments in 2025. So where is the market heading next? Well, Meta is reportedly testing something called super sensing AI glasses. These can continuously record audio and take photos every few seconds. It could help wearers to recall things like where they left their keys, but there's also privacy risks. And growing privacy concerns over smart glasses led Apple to delay the launch of its first range. That's now expected to be unveiled at the company's Worldwide Developers Conference in June 2027. And a Chinese firm founded by a former Apple employee has come up with a solution to the privacy issue. Even Realities glasses are camera-free. It says it wants to focus on discrete productivity instead. So the display can show you live translations, and they have an AI assistant feature, but those glasses won't be filming anyone. The Shenzhen-based company recently raised $150 million in a funding round led by Meituan and Tencent for a $1 billion valuation. And just how popular will AI glasses become? Well, this is what the founder of Chinese company Rokit had to say.
Well, AI glasses, will be the most popular AI terminal device to the end user and in the AI era. So I think it's going to get more popular. So maybe in the coming 3 or 5 years, everybody's going to put AI glasses on.
Well, let's get more on this. Will Guyatt is a technology journalist. Will, welcome to the programme. We've got the CEO's take. What's your take? Will everyone be wearing AI glasses in a few years' time?
I think he might be a bit ambitious to say we're all going to have them, but a growing number of us definitely will. We've seen, shipments grow massively over the last year. Meta have just launched their latest series of glasses. You've already talked about Apple's version coming. I think they're a lot easier to use and a lot more sensible than virtual reality headsets. The big headsets we were supposed to put over our heads cause us headaches and those things. So I think more of us will want something that looks similar to a normal pair of glasses. Ironically, I have a pair of smart glasses, but the battery's flat, so I'm using my normal ones right now.
One concern that doesn't seem to be going away is privacy, particularly with these reports of these new Meta glasses that could be on all day. How do companies balance privacy concerns with innovation?
this is the challenge. The glasses are being made for the purpose that best suits the technology, but that doesn't stop them being used by bad people behaving in a bad fashion. And that's the challenge with all of these things. For example, Meta's current generation of glasses have a little green light showing when the camera's running on them, but people have worked out ways of covering over those green lights, and that's a big concern about privacy. So we're seeing a lot of that happening.
China's share of the smart glass market is growing. How important do you think Chinese companies will be to new technologies in this sector?
Well, intriguingly, they were there first. They were there before Meta, and they're there before other Western companies. So lots of the companies leading the way and innovating with exciting new technology in this space, and perhaps doing some of the most innovative things, are those Chinese companies. And I think we're going to see more of them as more people switch away just from Meta's version of the glasses. The idea of glasses without the camera, but the connection to the smartphone, will also be appealing to a number of people who don't want to be seen as creepy or using cameras without people's permission. So I think those cameraless glasses will become increasingly popular too.
How do you see the market developing over the next decade, and what other new features could we potentially see?
Well, we're going to see them get more and more like a normal pair of glasses. The frames getting less thick, them looking more like a normal pair of glasses, so you wouldn't notice somebody necessarily wearing them. I think we're going to see a massive advance in screen display technology, which means you'll be able to overlay video over your vision through the glasses, and just making them smaller, the batteries lasting longer. I think we're going to see a lot of improvements in those areas, because it seems to be a really fast-growing market now, and with Apple coming to it next year, lots of companies will want to get there and make their mark first.
Will Guyatt, technology journalist, thank you very much for your insights, and back to you, Jeff.
Siobhan, thank you very much indeed for that. The main headlines again. The yen surges to a 3-month high as Tokyo and Washington join forces to help prop it up. AstraZeneca shares fall on reports of a takeover bid from US rival Bristol Myers in a deal that could create a $400 billion biotech giant. And extreme heat threatens Hungary's only nuclear power plant. A shutdown could cost the country hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's it for Global Business Europe. Thank you for watching. Coming up next on CGTN, it's Africa Live. We'll see you, though, same time tomorrow, same time, same place. From all of the team here in London. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.